Kit for determination of induced acrosome reaction by calcium ionophore A23187. Main compositions: 80% density gradient medium, 40% density gradient medium, sperm wash medium A, sperm culture medium, sperm wash medium B 5 times, diluted to 250 ml, calcium ionophore A23187. Compared reagent: fixative reagent, slide preservative reagent, PSA, FITC, fluorescence solidified reagent. Applicable instruments: fluorescence microscope, low-speed centrifuge, 37 degrees Celsius water bath, carbon dioxide incubator, optical microscope, laminar flow cabinet. Preparation of the sperm wash medium B. Add 1 ml of sperm wash medium B 5 times with 4 ml of distilled water. Mix well. Displace the density gradient medium of 40% and 80%. Sperm wash medium A and sperm culture medium incubated at 37 degrees Celsius for 0.5 to 1 hour. Dispense 5 ml of distilled water into freeze-dried PSA FITC and make it dissolved. Operational process: collect motile sperms by density gradient medium. The method is as follows. Dispense 0.5 ml of 80% density gradient medium into a conical centrifuge tube. Dispense gently 0.5 ml of 40% density gradient medium on top of the lower layer, 80% density gradient medium. Be careful not to disturb the interface. Dispense 0.4 ml of semen samples to the top of the upper layer and centrifuge to the tube at 400 grams for 20 minutes. Absorb the upper and lower layers carefully without disturbing the deposition of sperms. Use another plastic pasture pipette under negative pressure and advance. Insert it into the bottom of the tube. Absorb 0.2 to 0.4 ml of pellet slowly, and transfer them to another new conical centrifuge tube. Dispense 1.5 ml of sperm washing medium A into the tube, mixing gently and centrifuge at 400 grams for 5 minutes. Remove the supernatant and resuspend the pellet with 0.2 ml of sperm culture media. Mixing thoroughly. Count the motile sperms. Then adjust the sperm samples to a concentration of 1 times the 6th power of 10 motile sperms per milliliter, with sperm culture medium and the final volume is 1.2 milliliters. For example, if the concentration of the motile sperms is about D times the 6th power of 10 per milliliter, then dispense 1.2 per D of sperm suspension to 1.2 milliliter of sperm culture media. Now the concentration of collected motile sperms is 50 times the 6th power of 10 per milliliter. Dispense 25 microliters of sperm suspension to 1.2 milliliters of sperm culture media, mixing thoroughly. Use the 1.5 ml Eppendorf tube as the test tube. Set the compared tube and the test tube at the same time in each sperm sample during the test. Dispense 0.5 ml of prepared sperm suspension to these tubes without tightening the cap. Incubate the tubes in carbon dioxide incubator for 3 hours to induce the sperm capacitation. Dispense 2.5 microliters of calcium ionophore in the dark to the test tubes, and dispense 2.5 microliters of compared reagent into compared tubes, mixing thoroughly. Then incubate together at 37 degrees Celsius in carbon dioxide incubator for 15 minutes. Reaction overnight at 4 degrees Celsius. Take out the compared and dispense 1 milliliter of normal saline to each tube quickly. Centrifuge the tubes at 600 grams for 5 minutes. Remove the supernatant and resuspend the pellet with 1.5 ml of normal saline. Centrifuge at 600 grams for 5 minutes. Remove the supernatant again and finally adjust the sperm suspension to a volume of 100 microliters with normal saline. Smear 10 microliters of sperm suspension equably onto the well of tissue slide and air dry. Completely immerse the tissue slide into the slide barrel filled with fixing reagent. Screw down the cover and make the reactants fix for 30 minutes. Wash the slide for 3 times by distilled water and 2 minutes every time. Remove the moisture from the tissue slide. Dispense 50 microliters of PSA FITC to each well on the tissue slide and smear equitably and lay it horizontally in the dampness box at 4 degrees Celsius overnight. Remove the PSA FITC and rinse it by distilled water 3 times and 2 minutes every time. Dispense 1 drop of fluorescent solidified reagent to each well. When the tissue slide is air-dried, cover the long slide glass cover and observe the sperms under 100 times field length with IO immersion by using fluorescence microscope at 450 to 490 nanometers excitation. The characteristics of sperms with acrosome intact AI. Zone of acrosome in sperm is filled with fluorescence. The characteristic of sperms with acrosome reaction AR. There is an equator of sperm core with fluorescence. Figure B, where there is not any fluorescence in the zone of acrosome in sperm. Calculation. The rate of acrosome reaction in test tube percent AR is amount of sperms with acrosome reaction in test tube divided by total amount of sperms observed in test tube times 100%. The rate of acrosome reaction in compared tube percent AR is amount of sperms with acrosome reaction in compared tube divided by total amount of sperms observed in compared tube times 100%. The rate of induced acrosome reaction by calcium ionophore A23187% AR is rate of acrosome reaction in the test tube. Rate of acrosome reaction minus rate of acrosome reaction in compared tube. Reference values. The reference normal value percent AR is greater than or equal to 15%. Precautions. 1. The distilling of motility sperms affects the test result directly. 2. Sperms without fluorescence should be counted in the amount. 3. The accuracy of observation has relation to the quality of fluorescence microscope and fluorescent intensity.